I think we've let the skin dry enough, so we are going to finish painting up Robin here and start off with the main torso. Procedure here is we're going to have to mask things, paint, and then take the mask off and then remask the areas we just painted. So this is going to be a little bit time consuming, but decided to start with the red because that takes the least amount of masking. And for his main torso, we are going with flat red. Seems to be a fairly accurate color, and it's good. It's one of my regular standbys, so we are just going to paint this base coat. We're not going to worry about shading just yet. We'll do that once we get a little bit closer to the end. Painting the green areas now, and I decided to do it by hand rather than the airbrush. Probably should have done this area first because it would have been easier to mask this off than it is to try to mask off the red and then do the green because of the lip here. But brush is fine as long as we have the paint very thin and we use a whole bunch of very thin coats. I actually, this is my third time going over this because I keep changing my mind on the color. Again, like the problem we had with the Batman suit, depending on what still you're looking at from where the source came from, especially the green, it's hard to figure out exactly what color it is. Sometimes it's very bright green, appears to be, sometimes a very dark green. I originally did park green, decided I didn't like that, so then I went with deep green, which seemed a bit too bright. Most of the photos seem to have a bit more olive, almost an olive drab color to it, so I decided to tone it down a bit and use this mixture of the deep green and the camo olive green. And because I already put several layers of the park green on, this just has to go over like 2 layers or so. And I want to try to get it all done in this one pass so I don't have to mix up a new batch of paint. Because then if I do that, I'll have to do everything over because I won't have the exact same mixture. But because we have that previous layer of green down, I only have to do about 2 coats of this and we should be good to go on the green. Painting up some of the last bits, we have the gloves that I decided to airbrush because that was easy. The gloves apparently, I'm assuming, are leather or maybe vinyl, and they are darker than the rest of the suit. There are some, I'm assuming, publicity photos from before the show where the gloves are cloth in the same color as his shirt and undies. But I think a majority of the show had the leather ones. So I painted them. Try to remember. Hang on. It is... there we go. Military green. I first did a coat of military green and black because the military green over the white was not dark enough, and then once that was dry I went over with straight military green. So those are drying. And for the shoes that I'm painting right now, I actually found the actual shoes online, and surprisingly they are suede. They are not leather, which is what I first assumed they are. And they are almost an exact match for the color of the t-shirt. But just to show different material, I'm painting them in a slightly different color. So going back to the original part green that I used on the t-shirt, and I mixed that with the camo olive green. So it's gonna be pretty close to the shirt. And once I'm done with this, we can go into some detail work on all these colors. We need to add a little shading to the uniform, especially in areas like here. And I was originally going to use oils, just work in some very thin black oil paint and just blend it in. However, decided to do something a little bit faster here. We're going through acrylic. And for example, here I have black mixed with military green, and I got a heavy amount of glaze medium to it, so I can take care of any little errors like that, because I can never do this and talk at the same time. And I'm trying to, right now, just run a little bead around the tunic part here. And I'm adjusting the amount of green or black based on what I'm painting. So in some of the folds on the arms I added a bit more green, and like here I have a bit more black. And so we just use this method to quickly add a little bit of shade, again because it's a larger kit, we don't need a whole bunch. And I can't do this and talk at the same time. Excuse me, I'm catching a bit of a flu bug. But because we got our glaze medium here, I can just smooth that out and blend it away. And we got less errors. For the front here, you can see it's almost done. Flat yellow for the R. I initially airbrushed that, but I had to go back and fix it by hand because I missed a few spots. Flat yellow there. We have some glorious gold Vallejo there. So we are just about done. Just 2 areas I think that we have to work on next. So I decided to actually use some oils for some of the shading and just a little bit of highlighting here. Working it in just like we did with the flesh. Already did the gloves there, working in some black. These little cleanup work still. For the suede shoes, I got some of this lime green oil paint here. And, no, I'm sorry, I didn't use the lime green for that. I used that green, whatever that is. Zinc's chromium, I think. But I wanted to kind of like stipple it in, excuse me, to get that suede look. So hopefully that'll give it an interesting effect to it. So we're just stippling in a little bit of highlighting here and there. The only other thing that I have a problem with is when I put it together, the pegs for the feet didn't line up at all. You know, I replaced the pegs with screws, but they were still pretty much going in the same holes, but for some reason it was way off on this foot here. So I had to drill a new hole. I think when I put it together before, I did not completely, the legs were loose, so they were wiggling a bit, so I guess that's why they didn't line up. So we're just going to do our little doodling here with our oil paints. We're going to add a little bit of highlight to the red there, just on top. And then we have to go back to the cape.
Okay. I know I sound terrible, I'm sorry. I have a full-blown head and chest cold. I'm trying to complete most of this off camera so I don't have to talk. I just want to point out one more thing that I had to fix. I had to repaint the cape because I forgot about the collar here. So I went ahead and just repainted everything so it would match. For that, I used this new paint that the Creature Caster sent me. I think it's either called M or Monument. But put down a layer of gold brown so everything would match. And then I just sprayed the straight polished gold. And I think it's a real good match for the show. The problem is just pressing this into place really scuffed things up. And there's a gap here that I have to go back and clean up. But the real hard part was pressing it on damaged the tips of the cape here. So now I'm going to attempt to get a little epoxy putty and fix that so it attaches to the collar, and then do my best to touch up with the paint. So that's it, and let's jump to the end, I hope. Okay, between the several naps I've taken today, I managed to finish Robin, so here we are. So, quick review. Came out okay. I do like the gold that I used on the cape. That actually came out pretty well. I ended up flat varnishing everything because there were some glossy bits from the oil paints. Kind of wish I didn't flat varnish the cape. I was looking a little bit more accurate before, but there's no real way I could have skipped it due to the size and complexity of it. The rest of the colors on the kit, if you're doing your own, you do have variations. If you just go look online for Robin Burt Ward, you'll see there's a lot of different colors. That's the problem with doing a kit from a 60, 50-year-old television show. The screenshots just vary to a huge degree, and the original costume was completely faded, so you can't really tell. The legs came out pretty good with the dusting on there, so it looks different than flesh. The only things that need to be fixed a bit if you're doing this yourself was, one, the cape, which I already mentioned. Getting that on was a pain. The main one, though, which I didn't notice until I put everything together, the arms here. The wrinkles in the biceps. That's not a human characteristic. Skin does not fold that way on your arms. It would if it was cloth, but he has bare arms. And now that I see it, I cannot unsee it, and it's driving me absolutely nuts. And there's no way I can go back in and fix that without having to repaint everything, and I'm not going to be able to match to the arm color to the face again. So if you're doing your own Robin, fill in these little folds here, because humans don't have that. Skin does not work that way. It works on the legs because it's supposed to be tights, but not on the bare arms. I don't know. I don't know why they did it. So that's one of the problems with the kit here. I already mentioned the cape. One thing I don't think I did mention were the gloves here. The arm's just cut off, and it goes to the glove here, and there's like a little shelf where the arm ends. And the gloves actually should split open much further and reveal some of it, more of his forearm. And this is not sculpted correctly. This split should go all the way up to the wrist almost. And you can't, fix it, adjust it correctly because you have that gap there. So it would be a little bit more accurate if you add a little bit of flesh in there with some putty. Luckily, it's down on the bottom, so you really can't see it. And finally, the base. As always with these kits, I'm going to redo all the bases when I get everything done, so they'll all match. But until then, Robin's done. I want to take some quick photos, and then I'm going to go take another nap. So, thanks for watching.
Johnny Long Torso, Johnny Long Torso, the man who comes in pieces.